Hey guys, so I'm back for a quick update. I finished the tutorial video, but then I received a few final photos back from one of my editors, and I told them I would sort of give them critique and what I like and what I don't like, and so I figured it might be beneficial to quickly go through the photos that they made for me and things that I might have them change a little bit. So um, this should be pretty quick. We're going to use this photo as an example. This was the image that I received back from my editor. Um, Overall, really great job. I'm very pleased with the blending that they did on this photo. And just to really show you quick, this is what one raw exposure would have looked like. And if we jump back and forth, you can see not only is the compositing of the people there, but the sky was brought down in exposure to be a little darker and deeper blue, which I really like. And then the shadows were brought up. So if you look at the building here and the basketball hoop, it really pops against the background, and I really like that. So a few things. Oh, also worth noting, this person saved all their pen selections, their pen tool selections around all these edges, and that is very helpful for me because I'm able to then jump into those selections and use those again if I need to when I sort of pick up this document where he left off. Now these are all in a different language because he is from a different country. Now another thing that I really liked is in his layers. So all these, hold on, make sure this is, there we go. So in his layers here, he not only did he organize these nice and well, so you got people in its own folder and then the blend of exposures in a separate folder, but he saved all the layers that he pulled into the document even if he didn't use them. And I thought that was really, really helpful because personally, I actually was playing around with having the sky a little bit darker, maybe just towards the top, a tiny bit deeper blue. And luckily I could do that because he saved this darker exposure, even though he hadn't used it. So I could just quickly jump into this document, put a mask on that layer the way I liked, and go from there. So that was really nice. So yeah, definitely save your layers even if you didn't use them. So that was super helpful. Okay, moving on. So a few things that I would suggest that would make my life and my workflow a little bit easier if you guys were to do this. So first of all, these were all named, all these layers here were named hue and saturation or vibrance or one of those. Or no, it was hue and saturation. And I went in and sort of determined which channel was being targeted. So in this case, it was yellow, and he had selectively targeted, each of these color channels: yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta. So I just went in and renamed these to what they were once I found out. But it would have been a little bit easier for me if these were just sort of named what they were, so I didn't have to dig through and sort of find out which is which. So I could go straight to yellow. So small thing, but that would definitely make my life a little bit easier. Now, in regards to the actual adjustment itself, I think he's on the right track. Really good intentions here. I see exactly what he was doing. He kind of chose selectively an area to make more neutral, so eliminating blue casts in the shadows, for example, and you can see how dramatic that is. So the intention was great. I definitely see what he's going for, and I support that kind of neutralization of these color casts. So the blue in the shadow here you can see, and then up top. However, I will say that I think going to negative 100 is almost always going to be too much. I don't think I ever want 100% gray, 100% desaturated. I do think it's natural to maintain a little bit of that color. However, definitely in the right track. I think that was a great decision. But all I really did, I went into every single one of these color channels here. That each one of these was desaturated to 100, and then it selectively did that. I just brought the saturation up to maybe like -50, -65, something like that. And it still has the same effect where it gets rid of, that nasty blue cast, but it still maintains a little bit of that color. And so it feels a little more natural to me. And in the case of the yellow, again, I totally understand what he was going for here. Get rid of this yellow cast, and that's good. But in this particular case, I think this brick wall did have a sort of hint of yellow tone to it. So I dialed this one back quite a bit. But again, I think this is an important point, and it brings up a good point, which is that was very easy micro adjustment for me to make, because he worked completely non-destructively and kept all of those adjustments as adjustment layers with masks. And so again, I could just quickly go in there and fine tune it to my liking, because there's no way someone is going to know exactly what percentage or whatever that I'm going to like. So it's really good to maintain non-destructive editing so that I can quickly go in and make those adjustments, because overall, the point in me outsourcing my editing and paying money to have this done is that it saves time for me. So if I'm to get back a document where all the layers are flat, so essentially start from scratch, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of paying for this to be done. So a good reminder. Looking at some details now. Here's one quick reminder, and I don't mean to pick on this editor, because I think he did a fantastic job, but not everyone is aware of certain sort of tools and tricks and techniques that you can use to get better results. So I just wanted to mention here, if you look at this mask, it was a pen tool selection, and it was this pen right here, this pen stroke. You can tell that there was no feathering done to the selection, to the selection before it was turned into a mask. And what that does is it makes for a really sharp, kind of unnatural look. Here's a better example over here on this straight up and down line. That is unnaturally sharp edge, and because of the nature of a camera sensor having pixels, every selection should be feathered. So all that really means in my my sort of summary in saying all this is, every time you make a selection, it's very important to feather that selection. The keyboard shortcut for that is Shift F6. Some people say 1 pixel. Personally, I usually do 0.7 pixels, 0.8, something like that is a sweet spot. It's a good habit to get into. Anytime a selection is made, Shift F6, feather it just a little bit, and then you can turn it into a mask. And what that does is just make your edges of your masks just that little bit softer, and it integrates better into the composite, and it's more natural transitions. So just wanted to mention that quickly. Okay, here's another thing that's worth talking about. Now, I really feel for this guy. He went to an unbelievable effort to pen tool all these little things, and I feel so bad that he went to that effort. I mean, I love the work ethic, but there are much easier ways to make an intricate selection like that. And so what I would recommend, let's hide these masks. Let's get rid of our pen tool. What I would recommend is using Select Color Range. Now, don't get me wrong, for the pen tool, you could and should do those, do those sharp edges like around the building right here. That's a great point. Or maybe even around the rim itself and these pipes, because they're very sharp edges. Now, something more organic like this, very, very difficult to pull off. So I'm going to just hide. Well, first of all, let me back up really quick. I'm going to duplicate, just to use this as an example. I'm going to delete that mask. I'm going to go select color range. Click on the blue. And I'm holding shift and clicking around to add to that selection. So that's pretty solid. It's pretty good. Now I'm going to avoid, and red, so just so you're aware, red is what has not been selected. Anything that's visible has been selected. And you can also see down here what's white. You can tell, in that area I have selected the blue sky. And it doesn't matter that it's not the whole blue sky, because all I am targeting right now is this specific area around the hoop. And so you can address each area individually. So I'm also resisting the urge to add these clouds to my selection because they're white. And those clouds will, as soon as I click that, it will add the strings to my selection because they're also white. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And you can adjust the fuzziness to your liking. So that's pretty solid. And again, Shift F6, enter, because before you do anything with that selection, and boom, turn it into a mask. Now, this is the selection he made, and understandably, don't blame him for this. He missed a few of these gaps. Because there's a lot of freaking gaps to account for, so he missed them. Instead, now you might be saying, well, wait, that didn't really help because I can still tell that color is different than there. And the reason for that is because the existing mask that was there before, the one that he made, it was utilized in another place in these color adjustments, in these blues and cyans. So if I see, boom, look at that. Got rid of the blue and cyan, and it fixed that. Point is, refine that mask before using it in other places. So here's what I would do to his selection. I would first select a mask, increase the feather just a little bit. Again, I think the magic number is 0.6 or 0.7. And you can see how much it's softened this mask. It's not such a dramatic. And now, if I toggle before and after doing that, and you look up close at those edges, you can see how much more natural it looks against the background. It sort of blends those edges together a little bit. Okay, now activate that blue sky selection that I made a little while ago. I'm going to a white brush with 100% opacity. I hide the selection, but it's still active. It's just so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just quickly painting around so it sort of fills in those gaps that were unaccounted for. I could even zoom out. I could make my brush a little bigger and just paint all up in there. Make sure to account for every little crevasse, every little gap of white. So I think that's did a pretty solid job. Now what I'm going to do, just to show you the difference it made, that's before and that's after. Before, after. You can see how much more natural and realistic it looks, and it's way more precise. And not only that, more important than any of that, not only did it do a much better job, but it in theory would save you a lot of time from going into these little gaps of the net there and filling in every single gap with the pen tool. That is just super excessive. Again, I applaud the work ethic and your precision, but I wanted to just teach you this method of selecting color range so you can sort of improve your workflow, and so these won't take you as long. Okay, apply that same mask, so still gonna hide it, to the other places that mask showed up. So again, right here, activate, hide, white brush, 100% opacity, oh, I'm sorry, black brush, because now we're removing that blue desaturation and just paint in that area. Go to the cyan, do the same thing. Boom. Now, if we go before after, you can see we fixed those little desaturated gaps in the net. Boom, boom, boom. Beautiful. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the retouching phase. Now, here's another good example of why I would probably prefer you guys, my editors, to hold off on the retouching and clone stamping until the sort of final composite is approved. So, you know, he had gone in and retouched some of these little details in the distance, which again, I'm glad the intention is there, and I would also do that. But since I made adjustments, those clone stamps no longer work because the color is off. And so basically that work was done for no reason, and it will have to be redone. So again, just to save you time, you know, I appreciate the thought, and I'm glad that's on your mind, but let's hold off on doing any clone stamping or retouching until the final composite is approved. So great job on this edit. Thank you again. Overall, really amazing work. I think we could definitely work together for a long time in the future. I will definitely keep coming back to you, but I wanted to tell you a few things that might sort of improve your workflow, save you some time, hopefully make your life easier, and deliver a product that I prefer. So again, thanks for watching, and reach out anytime for questions or clarification.